Well, it's going to be a couple of minutes late. Good evening and welcome to the Wednesday, May 7th, 2014 meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. First item on the agenda is other business, conservation restriction, Hills/Shearer, 45 Little Neck Bars Road. Oh, here, I have another. Oh.
Somewhere. Yes, I do.
Good evening.
Madam Chair, fellow commissioners. My name is Alan Decker. I am the Director of Land Protection for the Buzzards Bay Coalition based in New Bedford. And I'm here this evening to present to you the municipal certification tied to a proposed conservation restriction on a parcel of land on Little Neck Bars Road that fronts on Buzzards Bay. I know you have been provided with a copy of the conservation restriction. You also have a series of maps that show you the property, the fact that the conservation restriction is over a majority of the property, but not the entirety. Property owners, the shearers, are here with us this evening, and I don't want to belabor the point because I know you have a full agenda, but as you know, with conservation restrictions, what we're seeking this evening is your concurrence with the conservation values that are being protected on this property so that we can then move forward to be in front of the Board of Selectmen to get their signatures of a concurrence as well on the conservation easement itself, conservation restriction itself. Property speaks for itself as far as the habitat values, I believe, that are being protected by this conservation restriction. They're enumerated in the municipal certification, come from the document itself, as documented by mapping and other utilities that we have access to. And it's worth definitely noting that we are co-holding this conservation restriction with the 300 committee here in Falmouth as a co-hold. So we're very excited about this opportunity to be involved in land protection here in the town. And I'm excited about my first opportunity in a long time to be in front of you. With that said, knowing your agenda, I'm happy to entertain questions or concerns that you have about the property, the project. Otherwise, as I said, I am formally asking for your concurrence and signature, voting to authorize signature for the municipal certification. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Jen, do you have any questions? Okay. Any questions on the board?
I'm glad that they chose to put it in a restriction. That's kudos and thank you.
Yeah, it's great. Well, I have some questions.
Absolutely.
I know one of the things, I don't have any problems with it. I think it's great. But I did note that you had you're prohibited, all except in the B list, and then in the B list are things that might be done.
Reserved rights, yes, ma'am.
Reserve rights, and one of them was discussing the trail to the beach. And from the aerial, it looks like the trail actually goes across private land too. You see it here?
Well, these aerials are, it does appear that way. I don't know if that's the primary trail for the property. I can't speak to its crossing off the shearer's property. I know that they have used this access for some time and would like to be able to continue to do so. That's why they reserve the ability to do so on their property.
Yeah, well, what you said was, this is the part I'm going to get to, what you said was, if you did have to change the trail, and I'm thinking if we are going to have the public use that trail, we probably don't want them crossing across on somebody else's property, then what you would do is block off the trail at that point and just establish it sort of in the best, with the least disturbance.
Agreed.
To
Agreed.
the beach.
It is worth noting that public access is reserved to the shearers to decide yes or no.
Oh, whether there will be public access.
Yes, correct. There's not public access as a part of this conservation restriction. It's reserved ability of the shearers to decide yes or no.
Well, how would you know
They,
when or whether it was yes?
it's how they currently do it as it is now, you know. They allow invitees to come across the property. They are also reserving the ability to sign access as to whether or not it is open to the public or not.
So this CR does not include public access then?
Not directly, no ma'am. That was part of the discussion with the landowners.
Okay. Well, I just want to be clear.
Oh, absolutely,
What it is.
as do I.
Okay.
I have no issue with it. I'd like
Yep.
to make a motion to forward this to the selectmen with the, I don't know how we'd word it.
We sign it, so, to accept
To accept
signing
it.
it for municipal
The municipal
certification.
That was
Municipal certification.
exactly what I was gonna say. Thank you.
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Russ, are there any questions? Any other questions on the board? Any questions from the audience? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of the motion on the table, which is to sign a municipal cert for this CR, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Now, if I could, would you mind signing it, the certificate? Jen, do we sign it right now and I can take it with me?
No, because I want to make a copy of it and everything, so I'll
Okay.
send it over to the 300 committee.
If you would do so, that would be fantastic.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you very much. I look forward to the next opportunity to be in front of you.
Okay, good.
Great.
Thanks.
All right.
Request to continue under hearings for a notice of intent.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You don't want to stay, Dan?
No, I might say something.
Oh, okay. You're trying to keep your mouth shut? Are you succeeding?
Not really.
Yeah, well.
So it's better.
Bye-bye, thank you. Request to continue under hearings for notice of intent. William and Karen Monroe, 26 and Lot 179 Ferry Road, East Falmouth, for permission to install vinyl sheet pilings behind the existing revetment at 26 Ferry Road, extending southwest to the existing bulkhead on Lot 179, and add boulders at the top of the coastal bank on Ferry Road. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance to June 11th. They are still apparently working with the others.
How
Okay.
many continuances on this?
It's been a few quarters, but it's a
This is,
difficult situation,
this
so
is a
they're just
continuance
trying to
that
resolve it.
we've actually
Encouraged.
encouraged.
Yeah, so that, yes. Motion to
Continue to
continue
June
to
11th.
June 11th.
Second?
Okay, motion is second on the table to
Is that
continue to
neutral?
June 11th. Are there any other questions on the board? Any questions from the audience? Okay, we'll call the vote. This is a motion to continue to June 11th. William and Karen Monroe, 26 and Lot 179 Ferry Road. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Request to continue under determination of applicability. Jason Zutat, 259 Edgewater Drive West, East Falmouth, for permission to repair the existing dock and replace the two floats with a 5-foot by 20-foot float.
Yes, Madam Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until May 21st.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any questions on the board? Any questions from the audience? Okay, motion on the table is a continuance to May 11th. All in favor, say aye.
May 21st.
May 21st.
Me first.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Eugene Garofalo, 199 Edgewater Drive West, East Falmouth, for permission to acquire Conservation Commission approval for the existing dock. No work is proposed.
Yes, again, Madam Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until May 21st.
So moved.
Second.
I have a question on this. does this have an order? Was this a
That's
doc?
what we're trying to determine, that we have,
Oh.
this one particularly has a lot of documentation that's for that dock, for neighboring docks, we're just trying to work through that all with the property owner.
So they may or may not have, and if they don't, they're gonna have to have an NOI, right?
Yeah.
They know that?
The former one does, but they provided to us late today. And
You
then
mean the
this
one-
We're trying to determine the legality of the dock.
Okay. So what was the motion?
Motion to continue to May 21st.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Any questions on the board? Any questions from the audience? Okay, motion on the table is to continue 199 Edgewater Drive West to May 21st. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Request,
Madam Chairman, can we do one more continuance that I neglected to put on the agenda?
Sure.
is it here?
Yeah.
Which one?
Continued request for determination of applicability, 164.
Okay,
Just so if anyone's here sitting, waiting for it, they can find that. 164 Penzance.
it's just above the request for an NOI.
Yeah.
Okay, this is another continuance, a request for a continuance. Thomas and Nicole Hines, 164 Penzance Road, Woods Hole, for permission to repair and maintain the existing stone and concrete seawall that includes replacing stones and grout that have washed out, pressure washing the existing wall, and repointing using fast-setting grout. Temporary elevated aluminum or timber planking above the salt marsh shall be used to minimize the impacts of the salt marsh. Work can be done during periods of low tide.
Yes, again, the applicants are requesting a continuance until May 21st.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second? Any questions from the
Yeah,
board?
questions? This is second continuous.
I believe
What's
so,
the
but-
issue?
I would have to consult with Mark on that. I think they're still working on some of the maybe possibly compliance issues, or whether or not the wall is in chapter 91 location.
Footprint, yeah.
I think it's a footprint issue.
It is a footprint issue.
Yeah.
Are there any questions from the audience? Okay, motion on the table is to continue Hines, 164 Penzance Road to May 21st. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, unanimous, so moved. Back to the first page. Request for determination of applicability, to determine whether the proposed work will remove, dredge, fill, build upon, degrade, or otherwise alter an area subject to protection. Brad Kutcher, 24 Sassafras Lane, North Falmouth, for permission to construct a 4-bedroom, single-family house with deck, porch, detached garage, to install a driveway, Title V sewage disposal system, utilities, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Yes, Madam Chairman, we're recommending a -2 under the state and the bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions on the board?
Question.
Question?
This is a 4-bedroom house. Why is this so minimal that it's, Just
It's
an
all
RDA
it's
as
in
opposed
is
to another?
land subject to coastal storm flowage A zone. It's in the Wild Harbor Estates area. It's one of the middle properties, so it's not along the water.
fair enough?
And Mark felt that it,
Nope, fair enough. Good explanation, thank you.
Okay, if any of you are here for RDAs, a negative determination means you can go ahead and do what you requested to do. Are there any questions on this?
yeah.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the table to accept staff's recommendation for 24 Sassafras Lane for a negative determination. All in favor of the motion on the table, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Robert and Kimberly Peretti, 31 Lane, Arlington Street, North Falmouth, for permission to remove the existing deck and tree to construct a new deck with stairs and a 14 by 14-foot addition, both on sonotubes, a new roof, windows, associated clearing, excavating, and landscaping.
Yes, Madam Chairman, we are recommending a -2 under the bylaw and -3 under the state with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So move.
Second.
Okay, we have motion in 2 seconds. Any questions? Any questions in the audience? Okay, all in favor of the motion on the table, which is to accept staff's recommendation of a negative determination for 31 Arlington Street, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Mammoth Acquisition Company, LLC, 93, 95, 97, 99, and 100 Davis Straits and 238 Worcester Court, Falmouth, for permission to relocate and widen the existing curb cut, reconfigure driveway entrances, install drainage improvements, trees and shrubs, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Yes, Madam Chairman, we're recommending a -2 under the bylaw, -3 under the state with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Any questions from the audience? Okay, motion on the table is to accept staff's recommendation of a negative determination. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. 31 Barneck Realty Trust, care of Jennifer Snyder, 31 Barneck Road, Woods Hole, for permission to install and maintain a new water service and sewer connection. Isn't this what we said? If they had to do it, they had to come for an RDA? Here's the RDA.
Yes.
Including an environmental one pump to connect to the existing accessory building to the municipal sewer system, possible trenching and repaving in Barneck Road, and the associated excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Yes, Madam Chairman, we're recommending a -2 under the state and the bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Any questions from the audience? Okay, motion on the table is to accept staff's recommendation of a negative determination. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Jones Pond Realty Trust, 311 Gifford Street, for permission to construct a 12-foot by 14-foot addition and associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Yes, Madam Chairman, the staff is recommending a -5 under the state and -6 under the bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
Well, there's a little change.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what is the -5
I knew
and 6?
that was coming. -5 under the state is an exempt activity under the Riverfront Act, which means it is a certain square footage, it's a small addition within a previously disturbed area in the outer 100 to 200 feet of the riverfront.
I had to
And
ask the question, so
designation
you
under
knew we were
-6
paying
under the
attention.
bylaw is just how you designate it for riverfront.
Fair enough.
Excellent.
So moved.
Second?
Any other questions here? Any questions from the audience? Okay. I'm not even going to ask what the -2 and -3 are. We've heard it for so many years. Okay, all in favor of the motion on the table, which is to accept staff's recommendation of a negative determination for 311 Gifford Street, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Aye.
Okay, the last two on the line, 259 Edgewater Drive West and 199 Edgewater Drive West, are continued to May 21st.
As is Hines.
As is Hines, which is the next on the list. Now we're down to requests for hearings under a notice of intent for permission to remove, fill, dredge, build upon, degrade, and/or otherwise alter an area subject to protection. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are heard simultaneously under the authority of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. Okay, first up, Andrew Zimmerman and Susan Connors, 49 Southview Way, East Falmouth, for permission to construct a 5 by 10-foot boat launch platform with through-flow decking, 4-foot by 5-foot stairway, 4-foot by 4-foot landing, install a stone step, 4-foot by 4-foot posts, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Jen.
Yes, Madam Chairman, I'll save any of my questions until after Jeff's presentation.
Good evening, Jeff.
Hi, good evening.
Yep, we'll take it. Yep.
Well, good evening. I'm Jeff Ryther with BSS, representing the Zimmerman family here in Southview Way, East Falmouth. This is on Flax Pond. We have land under our water body, pond itself, a little bit of inland bank, BVW along the shoreline. That's primarily it for resource areas. I did show the 100-foot buffer although we're not doing any work really within the buffer. Well, though, I should back up. The walkway in the landing is in the buffer. Let me go over the project briefly here. We have this waterfront structure on the freshwater pond. This is in an area that's sort of a bowled-out natural depression along the edge of the waterway. A little bit steep to just walk down. You have to kind of sidestep if you went there down it. So to make a safe way to the waterway, we put in or proposed to put in a landing, 4x4 landing, that's 4 feet by 4 feet. 4x5 staircase, basically just your basic rise run here. It's spec'd out here in 8 and 12. And we have this little boat launch platform. It's 5 by 10 down in that depression. So there's no work in the waterway. It's right up to the waterway. You'll see a label right here, edge of pond, right at the face of the structure. And it's to launch a canoe or a kayak at the edge of the water. Just kind of put your feet in, jump into your boat off of this. I'm not going to really call it a dock because it's not in the waterway, but it's on the edge. So they wanted a way to access the water without, rolling down or falling down the bank, and have a platform that they can get into their boat easily. So here it is. It's in plan and profile.
Pretty straightforward.
It's fairly straightforward. It's staked in the field. Hope you got out there to look at it.
Good.
And I'll take questions.
Thanks, Jeff. Jen?
Jeff, I don't really have any concerns. Your platform that's gonna be on wood posts?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me get my,
And you don't think that'll be damaged by any ice or anything like that? I mean, you have it right at the water's edge,
right
but,
up to the water's edge, correct. I don't expect it to get ice lifted because it's right there at the edge, and so there won't be.
okay, another
But-
option, I know that the board's done this in the past, especially in Flax Pond, is those sleeves, if they wanted to put it on metal pipes, if they wanted to take it out in the winter, if they do get ice damage, a way so they could put it back in the same spot every year. Like use little PVC pipes, right, Tom? We did that
Yeah,
on the
just-
last one.
Yeah. But that was actually into
In
the
the
pond.
water, but-
That was on the other side where it was even steeper,
Right.
and the platform was actually in the pond on the sleeves.
Think about it, I mean, we
Well,
could,
this,
we can
family
condition
didn't-
the option if they wanted to do that. It's up
Sure.
to you.
Yeah.
And the only other thing, and I don't think you have it yet, is you had to file with Natural Heritage.
Yeah, that just came in
It did?
today.
Oh, great,
or
I haven't seen it.
It's dated the 6th, so yesterday.
Okay,
I
great.
can get you a copy right here.
Okay, thank you. I was gonna say,
Is that-
Tidewater Mucket.
We'll put it,
It's not, you can just give it to them. It's not resulting in a take?
Right, under
Excellent.
both the Act and
MISA.
Species Act. MISA.
Great,
good.
pesky little muscle.
And that just came in, well, I saw it there this morning on my email, so.
Yeah, it probably went into Melanie's email, I haven't seen it yet. Great, I have no other.
Do you have a
comments.
DEP number?
Yes,
Got that too.
everybody has a DEP number tonight.
We'll
It's
tick off all
25,
those.
4008,
Did you get that?
254008.
We're into 4,000s?
Yes,
Wow. Yep. Courtney, any questions?
No questions.
Tomas?
My only comment is the choosing of Port Orford cedar. Even though this is not in the water, that's a fairly soft material. They may want to rethink that. It's fine for a lot of the stuff, but as far as the posts go, that will be a maintenance thing. You're going to get maybe 6 years out of it. It's a very soft cedar.
Actually, I have a dock we designed and permitted in Crocker Pond in West Falmouth. It's 18 years,
Okay.
and
Just,
it's still there. And,
wouldn't be my first choice, that's all.
yeah, there's not too many options because your regulations don't allow any PT or treated so it's fir or what else? I don't know.
Ronte or something like that, but, so, that was just a comment. I like the project, I think that's a wonderful place to jump in, the boat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
no dive.
It's beautiful there. Mike?
It was a beautiful day today.
Take it you got down there.
Well, I had a heck of a time with the boulders on Botello Avenue.
Everybody has a problem with them all the time.
Yeah, they,
So your directions were just a
Yeah.
little, but as I say, it was a beautiful spring day.
Oh, it did?
I was walking through what I enjoyed, so
I was with him. He knew how to get there.
Oh, he knew exactly.
So I didn't have any problem getting there.
so all this is at you and not the project. I think it's a beautiful project.
Did you get there eventually?
I did.
I'm sorry about that.
I was
We just,
smart enough to just keep pointing in the right direction. It was okay. And the truck didn't get stolen, and everything was fine.
You didn't slip going down that
I
slope, did
actually
you?
found it, Beth. My reputation, I did went well.
Mike has a reputation to uphold.
I do.
Mario?
No, just lose MapQuest, that's all.
yeah, really.
Oh, MapQuest is bad.
MapQuest is
Yeah,
bad.
we
Just
already-
write it out in English.
You hadn't heard this, Tom had to deal with this a while back. Yeah. Say, look over the directions before you give them to us.
Oh, yeah, Tom Balker.
Yeah, remember?
Yeah.
No question, it's a good project.
Okay.
Motion to close and take it under advisement.
Second.
Okay, any more any questions from the audience? Okay, motion on the table is to close this hearing, take it under advisement. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you. I guess you're gonna stay up, right?
Got one more, yeah?
Yep, just on the other side? Oh, no, you have another board. John Austin, 16 Loomis Lane, West Falmouth, for permission to relocate the existing timber pier ramp and float on Lot 2B and build a 4-foot by 15-foot timber walk, 4-foot by 8-foot aluminum platform, 3-foot by 20-foot aluminum ramp, 8-foot by 12-foot float just south on Lot 1B, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Jen?
I'll save any of my comments until after Jeff's presentation.
Okay, Jeff? Thank you.
I have an extra plan if anybody needs it.
Nope, I got it.
Thank you.
Yep.
This has a DEP number,
Okay.
but 25,
DEP number or
4,000,
plan, we're ready to go.
That'd be 4009.
Don't remind us.
4009.
Hey, again, Jeff Ryther with BSS Design, representing Jay Austin. Jay's over there, second row. Currently, Jay lives here, Lot 1B. This is number 16, Lemus Lane. You want to tip it out here? Hold on a second.
We have to be able to see it, too.
Oh,
Oops.
Sooner or later.
smooth. Anyway, currently, Jay lives here with his family, here at Lot 1B. This is number 16, Lemus Lane. Formerly lived here. His parents were here until recently. He no longer is there, but he had used these docks. Of course, there was 2 docks on this lot, side by side, license under 2766. Recently, the family sold off this lot, and in the agreement, it was to try to get, within the agreement, there's a section in the agreement that said that it would try to move the dock onto Lot 1B from 2B. Again, this is licensed together here. It's been licensed since 91, I believe. So this project is to relocate the pier ramp and float, just sort of shift it over about 40 feet. So we have 25-foot setback from the extension of the lot line. That's a DEP requirement, by the way. When we did that, it seemed to come right into this little boulder cluster. And Jay asked, well, could you build a platform on the boulder, and then we'd come off that with a platform to a ramp and float. So basically relocating the dock, but all new materials. Although we would like to still use the current float, which is 8 by 12, just under the 100 square feet. In plan view, it shows the big boulder here. This is sort of how it's mapped in profile view. There's a point on it, sort of a ridge on it that we would like to knock off. That would be done probably with a jackhammer. Take about 1.5 feet of that rock off. When I was out there with Jay staking this, he asked me to give him the hammer, and he just chipped away at this big rock. It's quite soft, although it's granite, but it will come off. So we have no problem with that. So we plan to put the platform on that and bolt it in, right in this area, and come off that with a new ramp. That's a 3 by 20-foot ramp to the existing float again. Now, if you look at the soundings, you may say, well, Jeff, where's the 3 feet? You don't have it. And I agree. Currently, in the mooring field on the licensed dock, it's 0.96, 0.95 here. Where we propose to go is 1.5, 1.25, 1.16. And the deepest area will be where the outboard will be. So it's an improvement as far as water depth. If you come out and you look at these soundings here, you're still only 1.42 feet. In the middle of the channel, 1.67. So there's not a lot of water. We'll never get 3 feet in this waterway. But we have a licensed dock that's hugging the lot line that Jay would like to have over on his lot. Now, one thing I didn't mention, this dock has a 5-foot wide dock easement. So virtually he has the rights to just use this area and maintain the dock. But rather than maintain it here, we'd like to put it here. So let me just go through a little list I put together. Well, we talked about the soundings, but it'll have deeper water from 0.96 feet, that's in the center of the float, to 1.25 feet at the mooring field. The sideline will be improved to 25-foot setback, and the dock moved away from Lot 2B. The proposed dock will cross less salt marsh than at the new location. I'm sorry, misread here. And that'll be from 18 feet in width to 3 feet, right in front of the boulder. The new design has no piles at all, where the other existing dock has 10 piles. They're 4 by 4 posts, but still 10 piles within that marsh and bank. We're going to remove the licensed railway. If you were out there, you may have seen the old, I'll call it the cart on the rails, sort of defunct, but still there and licensed, by the way. So that'll come out, and we'll put back some native plantings in that location on the bank. At the proposed location, the shellfish survey shows, not the significant figure that would trigger it into significant shellfish, but much less, about half. The top of the bank to be planted again with native shrubs such as a bayberry plant. We have a new safer dock, updated structures and components. The navigation will be improved by shifting this over. The current distance from this dock to here is 50 feet. If you had a lot line there with a minimum 25 foot, that would be, 50 feet, the 25 and 25. So those two docks are as close as you could get together under DEP's regulations. And we're going to add 25 feet more to that, so it'll improve the navigation and getting onto your dock here. And the last one is the lateral access, which is 4 feet, with the existing dock will be improved and elevated up to 5 feet. You'll see that in the profile view here, right there. So I think that's about it. If you have any
Good.
questions.
Thanks, Jeff. Jen?
We finally have one question, where's the float gonna be stored?
Oh, sorry about that. That is shown, it's up here. It says winter storage of floating dock.
Okay, make sure it's stored up there. I think when I went down to see this a couple of weeks ago, I think the float was kind of, a part of the dock was
Like over in
there,
here?
yeah. So let's put
Yeah,
the
he knows
winter
that,
storage winter storage where we have it. Other than that, I mean, you're not gaining a whole lot of water depth. I see the desire to move it. There's not gonna be any additional impact, I don't believe, to the environment from where it is now. So it's good that it hasn't moved into that velocity zone, because that's what I was kind of concerned with on how that was gonna work. But
Correct.
that was it, just the location of the float. Great, thank you.
Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't meant
No,
to say that.
I honestly just didn't see it there.
Here is
Sorry
the
about that.
the velocity zone line. It's
Yeah, it's
V and then A.
Yep.
perfect.
Mike?
You have a pile, 3-inch diameter galvanized steel pipe. Is the top of that high enough to keep this thing from floating off?
Well, I think during a hurricane, I think we would,
Pull the float.
we'd probably pull the float. I'm not sure of that, but that would be the idea if it was mine. This is shown at high tide, so yeah, it won't go over the,
Yeah, if you put your 14-foot elevation on top, you're well above the top of that pipe, it is that storm event. By the way, I think it's a, project in net is an improvement, so I'm picking little improvements, I can.
yeah, I didn't have an elevation shown on the top of that pipe,
But
but I think if it were 14 feet, it would look awful tall.
I think it would, and I don't
and
think
get
you
to the
could
point
bury
where,
the pipes
you know.
deep enough to accommodate it, so.
I mean, this is sort of the standard what I've drawn. It's like that all over the harbor, but again, if you know that a hurricane's coming, I think it might be time to pull certainly the boat and the float.
Be a good idea, but I don't know what'll happen, so, yeah. But again, think about it, I'm for both future projects, because I like it, but there is a problem.
If there's a hurricane, you wouldn't want that float in there. I don't think Jay would want the float in there.
Can I ask the applicant a question?
You may ask Jay a question.
Coming up, Jay.
For the record, my name's Jay Austin. I wasn't here when Hurricane Bob was here. I was living in New York, upstate New York, so I'm not sure if my father brought it out or not. I can't speak to that. I would imagine he did, but that's not...
Did it? Well, the alternative is, did he tell you he lost his floating dock?
No, we didn't lose it, no.
I think he would have told you.
We took the boat, he took the boat out, I do know that. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah. Mike,
I mean,
are
I
you okay?
understand
I'm
that.
okay,
Right.
I don't know what to say about that. I think if you make the pile too tall, it just be so heavy you couldn't maneuver it.
I
In the
I
spring,
think that's exactly, and you have to drive it so deep that I'm not sure you could, so that you probably have the best of all compromises, so I'm happy.
Well, the state does require that we put the license number and address. Well, the selectmen ask for the address. DEP wants the license number on there, so we could retrieve it at least, get it to the right place, if that happens.
Well,
These are usually held on by a collar.
this dock will not be the only one, which is, if this dock goes, there's gonna be a lot of docks that go.
There's going to be a lot of trouble.
Mario?
No, I think it's an improvement. We're getting more water at the float with the relocation. Getting rid of that rusty old marine railway, which is being an aesthetic improvement, if nothing else. I'm not an engineer, just taking the top 1.5 feet off that boulder, that's not going to in any way compromise the integrity of the rock itself, will it? Seeing that you're going to be putting the structure on the rock, there's no danger of this thing splitting or anything, is there?
Well, I guess it could happen, but probably not. They are going to drill in for bolts,
Right,
you know, and epoxy those in.
right.
I didn't get too detailed with that, but I did say how it would be fastened here, so using, you know, stainless rods and epoxy.
I had,
That's
my
some washers.
back deck it was a stone deck, and I had a big rock, and then I wanted a wooden deck, and so all the top had to be chipped off, and then it had to be bolted in.
Yeah, it works pretty well.
Well, what I say is the house might go in a hurricane, but I'll have a tech platform.
There you go.
Okay, Mario?
Yeah.
Russ?
The path down to the beach, Mr. Austin wants to maintain that, right?
Which one?
Just about a 1 foot.
Yeah, about a 1-foot path
Down
he's
here?
talking about for the ducks. Is that
Yeah,
what you
so
were
there'll
talking
be
about?
replanting, but there'll be that little sandy
Oh, this
path.
path here.
Right,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd like to maintain that little
Down to the
right,
water.
garden area.
right, and so Jen will put that in the,
Are we
And
talking
that-
about the marine railway and leaving a little path
On,
through
yeah,
that?
Right.
on the west
Yeah.
side of
where the
that.
marine railway is, there's
Yeah.
just a little 1 foot path.
And there's a stump on the east side, which I think has helped to hold that bank up. I hope
Yeah,
that
just note
doesn't
that,
get
Jen.
removed.
Jen,
It's
I will-
kinda on the east side. Jeff.
There's
There's a stump.
a cedar tree's been cut, but it's
East, over here.
holding the bank.
Yeah, on the other side of the railway, east of the railway.
That-
You know
that
where you
right
got the
there, yeah.
12-inch
There you go.
cedar and, yeah, there's a stump.
Is this the fallen tree or the?
No,
Yeah.
the one that's been cut,
Yeah, it fell and it's been cut,
yeah. If they could
but,
just leave
but all
that
the
there,
roots are,
because I think it's helping to hold
part
that
of the
bank
bank.
up.
You know, I can't say I've seen it.
well,
just don't
we
pull it
saw
out.
just don't pull it out.
Don't pull it out. Mr. Austin knows.
Okay,
And the other thing was, it's manual labor and chainsaws to get that old railway out of there. Is that no
that's
machine
it. It's
or
gonna
anything?
have to be taken out by the driveway side and, you know, piece by piece, like you said.
Otherwise, it's a good project.
I don't know about
no problem.
chainsaw, but whatever those,
Yeah,
you know, power,
sawzalls, whatever.
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's when we discuss that, bring that up again, so it's conditioned
Okay.
for that. Tom?
I've had pretty good luck if you had to take that out, just pulling a pipe, couple pipe wrenches, you pull it out, lay them down, gone. You know, it's not that big a deal to get that out in
I
case
told,
of a hurricane.
oh, you're talking about the float.
The
No,
float
it's talking about
itself-
the railway.
We're
No,
talking
no.
about the railway.
No,
Oh.
I'm addressing the float right
Addressing
now.
the
It's
float
not that big a
rainstorm.
deal to get it out in case of a hurricane. Another 45 minutes and you've got the float out. It's a non-issue. It's a big improvement. I think that it's nice to have everything condensed in on this lot. And the only difference that I have between my fellow board member is aesthetically, I kind of like the the railway, but, you know, that's me. It's a good project.
It's not your property, it's his property, and he's ready to get rid of it.
I know.
Courtney?
I share
I'd like
my
it for his
fellow board members' support for the concept of what you're doing. It certainly represents certainly no greater impact than what was there, most likely less impact with no pilings and so forth. However, my advanced age and longevity on this commission does require me to be a curmudgeon it occasionally. So I have to ask a question, and I'm hoping you'll have a great answer and can sell me as well as everybody else. Typically, when we see a project like this, which falls under the category of rebuilding a dock that exists and is licensed and so forth, the idea is that this thing sits in, the reconstruction is in the existing footprint. Now, you're moving this, so couldn't a case be made that this is really a new dock, and therefore it has to meet all the new dock regulations?
You could make that case, but this is, it's
I
under the same license.
I want to hear from the applicant, because I think this needs to be addressed. Because if we go ahead and approve this, we're going to have to make findings to be consistent that the unique conditions of this site require that, permit this situation, whereas normally that's not the case. So I want to hear the argument from the applicant or the applicant's representative.
I'm going to pass the mic over
I
to
wanted
the
to give
attorney here
Bob
for
a chance to earn his paycheck.
Thanks. We really appreciate that, Courtney. To an extent, I think you've answered Courtney's question. First, I'm Bob Ament, attorney, in case there's a question. I think that the board has answered it. I think Jeff has answered it about all the improvements that are involved with this project. And I think, Courtney, you've really addressed it too, because you said it was a unique situation that requires particular findings. It isn't a precedent for anything except for the exact same case, really. And I think it's appropriate that you, make those findings. We did think about the issues that you've raised, of course. There is a provision in your dock regulations that actually refers to extension and altering and changing a dock. You're saying, well, is this that, or is this a new dock? I think given the purpose of the dock, what it serves, the ownership history, and the very small 40-foot difference, I think you could think that this is a modification of an existing dock. And actually, that provision is in a section about modifying a permit for a dock. And here we have a situation where this dock, I'm not sure just when it was installed. There is a 1964 date at one point on the license plan, I believe. But we know it was there in 1975. It shows up on the town's aerial photo, not just this pier we're talking about, but also the other pier on the property. So I really think you would treat this as you could treat another, a dock that has the permit. We know it's licensed, but it predated the Conservation Commission regulation, so we don't have a permit itself to amend. So I think you should treat this as redevelopment. If this was in a buffer area as opposed to in the resource itself, there we do have discussion about redevelopment. And the standard, the requirement for redevelopment in a buffer area is that there be an improvement. That's the minimum requirement. But you also don't have to necessarily meet all the current standards for redevelopment. So I guess we would ask you to really go in the direction the board is going until they got to you, and determine that that this is in the nature of redevelopment, reconstruction, relocation of the existing pier, and that there are substantial improvements that go along with this project, and, as you said, really no detrimental impacts. I hope I, did well enough for you.
Thanks, Bob. I wanted that discussion to take place for the record, simply because we down the road, will hear something else where we need to be able to talk about the uniqueness of this particular situation. Thank you very much.
Bernie, I don't think it has anything to do with redevelopment, and I really wouldn't go down that road. I think, as Mr. Austin said, they sold the property to the north. They maintained the rights to the dock. If they want the property at the dock on their property, I don't think this board needs to make it any more difficult than it is.
It's not my intention to,
I know.
simply to raise the issue. Thank you.
Don't want to cloud
Motion.
the issue in the future, Courtney.
Motion to close.
Second.
Any questions any further questions on the board? Any questions from the audience? Yes?
Yes, hi, Joe Farah, 26 Loomis Lane. I happen to be the abutter, which would be the property line right here. And I was actually very happy to hear that the dock wasn't going over here. I still wasn't sure what was happening because I was under the impression that this dock wasn't on Jay's property. It is on your property?
Sir, the dock was on the property just to the north,
Okay, and then
and
moving
he
it down
had
to this.
access, and he's moving it onto his property. He retained
great.
rights to that dock.
Very good.
So instead of having to go on the other person's property, he's just go from
Got
his
no
own
problem with
property.
that. My next question is, when I looked at some of the details regarding what they're doing, it's a lot longer. It's now going to be aluminum. It's also going to involve a float. Well, there was a float, but it was a timber float. Now it's going to be an aluminum float, I believe. But I recall there was a 20-foot aluminum ramp with a 15-foot wood. So it's, getting back to Mr. Bird's question, it's really a new dock. It's much more substantial than what was there, unless didn't understand it correctly, and I apologize. Just so you know, I am in no objection to this dock.
Okay,
I would like this dock to proceed.
Okay.
But
and
I
we
just
have-
want to understand.
We have, you want to we have the information we need to make a decision.
Okay. And
It's-
why would you pick aluminum over timber?
Because it spans, one, if I may,
Yes, yes.
looking at a construction point of it, we're getting rid of timbers, you have nothing in the water. That aluminum is gonna span out from the stone. So it's nothing in there. Aluminum is a pretty friendly thing, it's lightweight, if you have to maneuver around with it. And the ramp is gonna be a heck of a lot easier to lift up than a wood ramp.
Yeah, but
going down.
the ramp is going from 10 feet to 20.
But you're,
Because you're starting from a higher point.
you're going that way at the beginning.
Okay?
It's longer because it needs to be.
Okay, the only reason why I'm asking these questions is because I'm going to be here next year doing the
Okay.
same thing with my dock.
Okay.
And I just want you to be consistent, because if you're telling me that you can make it longer, and you can change it to aluminum, and you can get rid of timber, and you can do all that,
We're not saying you can make it longer.
The overall length of
well,
this
then
is not.
maybe you should go out,
Overall length.
maybe you need to go out and measure this dock, because it's longer.
From the edge of the salt marsh to the edge of the dock, the new dock is 22 feet. From the edge of the marsh to the edge of the old dock, 27 feet. I'm looking at from the edge of that marsh, sir.
That's where we measure from.
Honestly, from the ramp, from the ramp and the walkway over that boulder to access the land, yeah, that is considered part of the dock, but I wouldn't,
But not from where we measure a
not,
dock.
it's not extending it any really further out into the water than the existing one, and that is where this board is gonna have concerns if you come in next year with a dock that extends further out into West Falmouth.
The definition of a length of a dock is from the innermost part of the salt marsh to the outermost part of the dock. It's not what
board has
goes, it's not the
routinely-
whole walkway that goes up to a dock.
This board has routinely permitted extensions landward from docks
Yeah.
to help.
Yep.
So it doesn't, this dock doesn't appear to extend further out into West Falmouth, and I would really think carefully before proposing to do that in the future.
And you're comfortable with the aluminum over the timber?
Materials, honestly, if it's an aesthetic issue, we tend not to get into that. Given the fact that they're attaching it to the boulder, I'll leave it to Tom and Courtney, Russ and Mike, from a construction access, if they feel it's better suited, and that's fine. But we're concerned with the overall length into West Falmouth Harbor, not so much landward. I think you had a couple of them last year where the ramps, it made access easier to go back.
I have one more question. Is it appropriate for this board to actually ask the question as to what the intention of the dock is for? Or that doesn't come under your
It's a
purview?
licensed dock.
Licensed dock.
It's a licensed permitted dock.
So he could generate revenue by selling the dock to someone else?
Actually, if you look into any sort of approval given by the Board of Selectmen, which they usually approve docks, I think their standard language is you cannot rent docks. It is in every license I've seen that the Board of Selectmen have granted.
So you're saying that you cannot generate revenue from a dock?
You're not supposed to. I'm not gonna say it doesn't happen.
Okay.
I'm gonna say you're not supposed to.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I'm very satisfied with this dock, and I approve it.
And honestly, sir, if you are to come back in a year, please come and talk to us prior to coming before the board, just to make things
Well,
easier, and
particularly because he's
I'll
on
guide you in the
velocity
right
zone.
direction.
I will do that.
Yes.
Jen, particularly because his dock will be in the velocity zone.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Court?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, are there any remaining comments? Jeff?
Well, Jay asked me to go and speak one more time on the last gentleman's comments. We do have, it's a mixture of timber and aluminum, so there is this walkway, which is timber. The part that bolts onto the rock is gonna be aluminum. It's 4 by 8. There's a 3 by 20 aluminum
Right.
gangway, but again, the float is wooden, existing.
It's the same float that's,
Same
So
one.
we're just gonna use the
Yeah.
same float, just bring it over. Same pipes. And it really is, you know, if you look at the overall dock, very similar in length. You know, it's almost identical.
yeah, but
And we have a little more
we
water
do look at,
depth here.
as you know, dock lengths from the innermost
Right.
part of a
I just, you know,
salt marsh.
it's well away from the center of the channel, so it's really it's a short.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the table to close this hearing and take it under advisement. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Thanks, Jeff. Jay, good evening. Blaylock Realty Trust, 7 Swing Lane, Falmouth, for permission to demolish the existing house and construct a single-family, 4-bedroom house with attached garage, decks, entry, stairways, to install a swimming pool, terrace, new Title V sewage disposal system, utilities, landscape walls, drainage, driveway.
Gentlemen, if we could ask you
Can
to
you move
take
the
that.
conversation outside, please? Thank you.
New Title V sewage disposal system, utilities, landscape walls, drainage, driveway, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Uh-huh.
Madam Chairman, I have a problem opening this hearing. I don't think the narrative was well done. It wasn't descriptive as all, Mike. Pretty much everything I looked at when I did my site visit was an assumption. This house, I assumed it was being built up on piers. We're pouring concrete slabs on grade on one side of the house. What is that for? Again, I'm not really comfortable opening this only because I did not like the way this was surmised. The narrative, I thought, wasn't well done. It was lacking a lot of things.
Madam Chairman, we have information on plans and a presentation to make that will give you all the information you need.
Well,
and then
Mike,
we can provide-
Mike, this plan didn't even say, it said land subject to coastal storm flowage. It didn't even mention that the zone that it was in is the velocity zone. And we happen to know what's permitted in velocity zones, but there's nothing on the plan to indicate where the pilings are, nothing to indicate, and you guys would do this, what kind of soil borings are needed to know for the pilings. Nothing on cut and fill calculations. There's obviously going to be some fill put into there.
Methodology for the,
Nothing about breakaway panels, whether they're going to be breakaway panels, where they're going to be, what's going to happen in that first floor. There's none of that information was in, the narrative is, there was more in what I read than is in the proposed project narrative.
Madam Chairman, with all due respect, this is the first I've heard of this, and I think that it's only appropriate to allow us to make the presentation of the information we have. You'll get the information, and if you need additional time to continue it, I have construction drawings. I have Mr. Huffman, who's prepared to speak about the construction methodology. I have Teresa Spray, who has a presentation to make.
This has been, I've been on the board, Courtney and I, well, you've been on longer than I, for 10 years as either a alternate member or a regular member. And I don't think I've ever seen a project that has given us so little information for when we go out in the field.
You have a complete site plan and a complete landscape
Are
plan.
there going to be pilings?
Yes, and I have a plan to show you. I have copies of the plans to show to you tonight of all of
Mike,
But
comprehensive.
that's supposed to come to us ahead of time, a week ahead of
Why
time.
didn't we get that now?
Huh?
Why didn't we get that a week ago?
Well, that's what I'm asking.
I mean, the landscape plan, the existing septic system will be removed from the V zone. A new septic system is to be installed to the north of the house outside the V zone, but it's in the V zone. I was totally confused because I
Well,
mapped
Madam
out
Chair,
the V zone.
this is the first time I've ever not been able to make some presentation to give you the information. I'm frankly amazed that I didn't know about this till right now. I had a brief conversation with Jen. We met with Jennifer and went over the project before we submitted our application. I just think it's inappropriate and not fair to let us make some presentation, continue the hearing.
Well-
You have an opportunity to learn a lot about the hearing right now.
I would rather not hear a presentation tonight. I'll entertain, you obviously don't want to have a hearing, and you don't want to have a hearing. There are 3 others.
The information we had, I agree, is not adequate for us to make a decision. In fairness in moving forward, I'm not sure the next presentation would fulfill all our requirements, as many applications do. I personally would rather hear what we had, get the information in front of us, and then make decision as to, just to keep things moving. The applicant has expectations, and I think we can help move it forward. And that's just my 2 cents.
Madam Chairman, if it's not an excuse...
Wait a second, Mario?
I'm kind of on the fence on this one, Mike, you know. I agree with Jeff. I don't think the narrative gives us enough information. The alternative is to close the hearing and entertain a denial for lack of information. I don't think that's what you want.
No, I would certainly ask for a continuance, but I don't think there's any efficiency in your review to ask for a continuance. I think a lot of this has to do simply with the fact that, and it's not probably the best excuse, but we didn't have an opportunity to learn this till right now, and maybe that's because we didn't have an opportunity to hear from staff, because she took a well-deserved vacation and didn't have an opportunity to tell us that we don't have the submittal package appropriate. Now,
Mike,
that's
you have
not...
done this as long as I've been on. You know.
Today
you
is
know.
the day of the hearing. We have not
No,
heard
I'm
anything like
saying
this.
you have submitted stuff. Usually you submit, we sometimes have questions. But you gave practically no information at all in this. You didn't even mention velocity in your velocity zone in your narrative.
The velocity zone is delineated on the plan of record. It's on the site plan, and we're prepared to talk all about velocity zones, because frankly, that's the only thing that really is on the table to talk about, because there's no other wetland resources other than a velocity zone. I've been presenting plans to you for over 20 years. I've never once had this happen. It's almost as though...
You've never given us this little information.
But why can't you have an open mind and listen to a presentation, and after 15 minutes, if you don't like it and need more information, continue the hearing? I don't see what's not to be gained for that.
If we were to let you open it, you would have to write a complete narrative. We continued it.
I can speak to the performance standards.
Yeah, but we don't want it just hearing. We need to
I understand, and
have
I'm-
it in writing, and it needs to be in writing in the record.
And I'm happy to do that. In fact, I'll tell you right now, we will continue the hearing after the presentation and submit a submittal to you, a supplement, so that you can understand how all the performance standards are met, if that's what you'd like. What we'd like to do is try to make a presentation to sort of present what's proposed, get a sense from you, continue it, and then give you the information that you may need at a subsequent hearing.
Well, Courtney.
What bothers me here is that essentially you're asking us to spend time on an incomplete application, and then we'll continue it, and then we'll spend time again on an incomplete application. So everyone will spend twice as much time as we really need to. I am not supportive of opening this hearing at all.
Tom?
Now that I'm being polled,
Yeah.
I would reflect what Mike had said. As disappointed as I was for the lack of what could have been put in here and wasn't, I think the verbal spanking has been issued, and it's very clear, not just to the engineer in front of us, but to others, that this board does expect what they deem a complete filing. And there is some that is lacking. And just as in what Mike had said, I'm all right if this is heard, it's going to get a continuance regardless of what happens this evening. So I'd rather see the cards now, and
Make
The
comments.
the engineer, thank you, may the next time be even more prepared, because the helpful input from the board tonight will make a complete presentation the next time around from the continuance that would happen tonight.
Madam Chairman, Mr. Huffman just spoke to me. If it pleases the board more to continue the hearing for 2 weeks, if that's possible, we will do that. But we're prepared to just give you a general overview if it's helpful. If you have, if your opinion is that it's a waste of time, as Mr. Byrd alluded to, and That's the last thing I want to do is waste your time. But we have construction drawings, we have everything with us, but you have yet to see it. I understand that. For that very reason, the construction drawings weren't available till very, very recently.
But a narrative could have been written, right? I don't care really, construction, it doesn't really matter to me as far as that goes. Just an idea of what's going on, what is this, what is that?
This
What
was
the
a
house
chance,
looks like
Mike.
has nothing to do with me.
This was a chance for me to say, you're going to raise it, R-A-Z-E, and raise it, R-A-I-S-E.
Well, I'm sorry for that, but the plans pretty much speak for themselves, and if the plan, if you look at the plans and the information on the plan, it's the same as any other plan I've ever submitted to you. But I'm not going to sit here and try to defend that if you aren't going to see that. So, every question that you have, we have an answer for, I would expect.
If I may,
Yeah.
Madam Chair, just one thing I want to be crystal clear on this point. Anytime the applicant, regardless that this may be lacking in a portion of it, please, to one and all, no one has ever wasted my time here. I don't waste my time, the applicants don't waste their time. We hammer things out, I've been on more contentious issues than this, and I do not look this as a waste of time for myself or the applicant. And I want that out there. I volunteered for this. So, here I am.
Well,
Madam Chairman, I'm going to speak a little the same way. I went and saw the site. I have questions, but I thought it was very well staked. I could see where all the corners were going. I understood where the building is. I don't have, there are questions I do have. There's a proposed stone wall that may have velocity issues in my mind, but those are the typical kind of questions that we bring up and get resolved, and we're here. I spent the afternoon to see it, and there are questions to be asked, and I'd rather have them, so I know what questions I didn't bring up than not know.
All right, you're on the fence. You're ready to go, you're ready to go. You'd be willing to
I'm
go.
ready to go.
Courtney doesn't want to go, but he'll go along. He'll listen.
Gonna have to.
So go on.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate your patience, and I will submit a supplemental narrative that will describe to you in detail how we, more information that'll supplement what I'm about to present to you in words, and that'll
Let
be-
me also, one more thing. If there are problems, do not throw Jen under the bus.
Well, let
It's
me
not,
back up.
it's
I
not
think-
just me, it's this whole board. So just say, sorry, I didn't give you the information, as much information as I should have, could have, and let's move on.
All right, I am sorry about that, but you misunderstood what I was saying. Jen certainly deserves more than 2 weeks vacation, as far as I'm concerned. I was simply making a point. She wasn't even here to be able to tell me that maybe I should submit some new stuff,
And when I did, I called you yesterday, Mike.
which is
Yesterday,
the day
granted,
before the
but as soon
hearing.
as I
So
found
it's
out,
not
I
that
called.
I'm saying, well,
Well, it's because I called Jen
Jen didn't do
yesterday.
her job. Jen wasn't here. She would have told me a long time ago that I needed
I
this
called
stuff.
Jen yesterday, and I said,
Understood. So,
Apology accepted.
thank you.
yeah,
I haven't gotten it.
Kumbaya. Let's move on.
Yes.
I have some butters. And for the record, my name is Michael Borselli from Falmouth Engineering.
Nice to meet you, Mike.
and I'll bet you have the
Construction
number,
drawings, Mike?
Excuse
Can
me.
we see this construction drawings too?
I'll bet you have 25-4010, right?
DEP, yes.
4010?
That should be the next one in line.
Um,
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what the number is. It should be in the file. Don't worry about the number, Russell. We'll take care of it.
I have a couple of exhibits, and I know you're
Thank you.
going to see this now for the first time because you didn't submit information.
Thank you, sir.
And what I have is I have an overview of the neighborhood on a GIS exercise on this board here to point to if we even want to get into that kind of detail tonight, because, again, I recognize you can't be expected to absorb all of the construction details on that plan in the next 15 minutes or so. So I offer it if you have questions. So this first exhibit, before I go any further, I'm joined tonight by Logan and Lisa Huffman, the property owners at 7 Swing Lane. They own the house that's there. I'm also joined tonight by Teresa Sprague from Blue Flex Design. She did the landscape plan and had a lot of input on the proposed site design. So what I have here in front of you is just a map that shows the general neighborhood. And the reason I brought this was to just illustrate what we're actually here for tonight and where we are in relation to wetland resources other than land subject to coastal storm flowage, and in this case, velocity zone. So number 7 Swing Lane is on the corner of Swing and Clinton. Here's Scranton. The Inner Harbor entrance is here, the small cove that you're familiar with, Clam Shack, Architect Hutker and Associates, the Falmouth Inner Harbor. I've shown on the plan that you have, and I can get you a copy of this if you want it for the record too. I think I have to.
Yeah,
You have to for open meeting law, Mike, so just
Right.
when you're done, just fold it up.
Yeah.
And bring it over tomorrow.
Okay, so you can't see it very clearly here, but there is a light blue line, and it goes off the page, and then it comes back and it swoops like that. Everything seaward of that line is a velocity zone. So there are, I think I counted 8 structures in the velocity zone in addition to our structure in this neck of the woods, if you will. None of the structures in that velocity zone are FEMA compliant in any way. They're older homes. They don't have pile-supported foundations. They don't have breakaway panels. Neither does our house. I also want, this exhibit is important because I wanted you to see how close you were to other wetland resources. The nearest wetland resource, other than land subject to coastal storm flowage, is an armored coastal bank on this small cove, and then adjacent to that is land under the ocean. And those wetland resources are over 140 feet from the property boundary. So this is truly a land subject to coastal storm flowage project, and specifically a velocity zone project. So the site-specific plan. Again, it's on the corner of Swing and Clinton. There's an existing single-family dwelling on the property. It does not meet any FEMA standards for construction. It does not have pile-supported structure. It has habitable space on the ground floor. There are no breakaway panels. There are no flood vents. There is nothing at all, because of its age, that meets FEMA standards. There's a failing septic system, non-compliant, I should say, not failing, non-compliant septic system located in this general vicinity. There is a typical yard with lawn, some landscape. There's a paved driveway on Swing Lane with access to a garage that exists. What we're proposing to do is raise and reconstruct that building with RAZE, demolish that building and build it to FEMA standards, and hopefully you'll agree that we're building it to your standards at FWR 10.38. If you look closely on this plan, now that in a larger scale, the velocity zone boundary is shown here, and it's V18, elevation 13, and the associated 25-foot offset to that is also on the plan. Beyond that is land subject to coastal storm flowage A zone, which is pretty much just this upper northeast corner of the site. We're proposing to construct a new single-family dwelling, and it'll be on concrete piers, elevated and designed to meet FEMA standards. It's proposed to have breakaway panels designed in accordance with FEMA standards. There'll be no habitable space in the flood zone. The architectural plans have designed the structure so that it meets your standard that is very specific. In a velocity zone, the lowest structural member of the building that's supporting the upper floors must be elevated a minimum of 2 feet above the elevation on the flood map, which in this case is 15. So that means not the first floor, but the lowest structural member must be at 15. That translates into the first habitable space living floor elevation being at 17 because of the structural framing materials and beams and et cetera that are necessary to support the building. So the first floor is actually elevated, and it's 4 feet higher than the predicted flood wave height. There's a connection to a 2-car garage proposed here, and the connection actually has is open below with no walls. It's in effect like a bridge connection to the garage. And that can be seen, I believe, in the elevation, the west elevation.
Yes.
You make reference to your plans, but in this large plan, it shows here. So the first living level is at elevation 17, and then this other living levels are, of course, above that. The pile-supported structure with the breakaway panels are shown on these elevations as well as, and you have a copy of this at a smaller scale. Now, the piling system is concrete, which means they'll be excavated to footings. They'll be formed and poured, not timber-driven pilings. We did not do specific structural analysis, soil borings. We did test holes, just open test holes for other reasons, septic system for one, and the material is that would support this is a coarse, densely packed sand and gravel. It's, frankly, you couldn't have a more ideal material to support a foundation, very well-drained material. If the board requires additional information, then we will do our best to provide it. In addition to the house, we're proposing a terrace with a pool. And the pool will be between the house and Clinton Avenue. It'll be screened with natural vegetation. Teresa will speak to the vegetation plan when I'm done making my presentation. We're proposing a very minimal elevation change. The terrace of the pool is proposed to be elevation 8. The existing ground is elevation 6. So what we'd like to do is build a very low profile, 2-foot tall landscape terrace wall around the edge of the pool and its surrounding terrace, just to retain that 2-foot fill material. And the concept is, because of the requirements to have the building elevated to meet FEMA standards, the building begins to aesthetically get very tall, and the idea is to try to, with decks, terracing, to soften or diminish the appearance of how tall the building is. So that is why we would prefer to have a 2-foot change in grade in the front lawn area. That would be the terrace level for the pool. And the terrace is proposed to act as like a walkway also around the sides of the building. There's a proposed septic system upgrade so that the new septic system location will be changed from this location. This system is an existing septic tank and a leaching pit. It's very close, if not in the groundwater table, and it would be an improvement environmentally to change that design to a new design that places the new system in this location. And it's a shallower system as far as overall depth from top to bottom. And that allows us to be able to design it in a way that it meets the minimum separation from the groundwater table of 5 feet. There's an existing driveway. We're proposing to basically site it in generally the same location. The existing driveway is paved, and it has no drainage collection system for the runoff that would run into Swing Lane. The new driveway is designed to have a portion of it paved, just the straight section here, and then the balance of it be pervious gravel, crushed stone surface. And there's a trench drain system designed so that it'll intercept any surface water that may run onto Swing Lane. It'll collect it and pipe it into a dry well. Now, in addition to what I talked about with the existing house being non-compliant in all aspects to FEMA standards, there's also some other elements on the site that are acting in a way that could cause you to be concerned about wave action and things of that nature. If you looked underneath the deck area, you would have noticed that there's an earthen berm that a previous owner had created and shaped around the sides of the building. And I think this was an effort basically to try to dam off any floodwaters that might occur. I think there was an experience during Hurricane Bob where there was some minor flooding in the lower level. So this earthen berm is in effect higher, if you will, than the proposed terrace. So we're proposing to eliminate that earthen berm and then lower the new fill area from 4 feet to 2 feet.
Mike, excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt, but that earthen berm, is it on your existing conditions plan?
I don't think I actually labeled it or depicted it on an existing conditions plan.
Is it that 8-foot contour? Going from the existing, well, you would need to look at your existing conditions plan.
I don't have that in front of me.
There's a 6.
Yeah, it's just
There's an 8 here. That's 8. Right, see? Yeah. Yeah. See, it's 8, and it comes out 8 over here. Yeah, you do have it.
Open there somewhere.
Yeah,
Well, there's spot grades, plus there's 8, plus it's here
Is it that
and
or
here.
is it that?
Yep.
it's actually,
This is 6.
Well, I know that. Which one is the earthen berm?
He has it labeled. There's an 8-foot contour right by the house.
That's the 8-foot contour. Okay.
Yep.
I can be more specific and give you a revised
Yeah.
plan that shows it in more detail.
Will you, it's there, Mike.
Okay. So what I'd like to do, if I could, and I'm going to give you a narrative in writing, I'd like to just touch briefly on the performance standards, and then I'm going to turn it over to Teresa, and then I'm
Going to turn it over to me.
turn it over to you, and we'll be able to answer any questions, or if you'd rather we
No,
continue
we'll have,
it.
no, I think at this point, it's appropriate for people to ask questions, because when you continue it, there might be some modification.
All right. Basically, this entire project falls under your bylaw and your regulation, your local regulation, FWR 10.38, which is land subject to coastal storm flowage. And then within land subject to coastal storm flowage, more specifically, velocity zones. And if I could just, there's a few excerpts that are important. It's a fairly comprehensive section. But I'd like to read a couple, FWR 10.38, this is subparagraph B. Basically says, the following activities proposed within a velocity zone shall be presumed to have a significant or cumulative adverse effect on the protected resource area values. And the resource area values are storm damage prevention and flood control for land subject to coastal storm flowage. And these activities that are tabulated are presumed to have a significant or cumulative adverse effect. New structures, including building sheds and garages and additions, and substantial improvements to existing structures. So, yes, we have a new structure, but keep in mind it's not a new structure on a vacant lot for the first time. This is a new structure to replace a non-compliant existing structure. Then it talks about new parallel or shear walls or vertical walls for existing structures. I don't believe that's applicable to this application. Introduction of impermeable paving for roads, driveways, and parking lots. We're not introducing any new impervious paved surfaces. We are proposing to maintain an existing paved driveway and then drain it with surface drainage control. So we believe that that doesn't really apply because we're not introducing new pavement. However, if the board would prefer that the driveway be permeable, we'd be certainly happy to listen to that. Then the next one is new or proposed expansion of coastal engineering structures. Well, we're certainly not doing that. And then changes in grade, which we certainly are doing. And they make reference to an example, mounded septic systems. So those are activities that are presumed to have cumulative adverse effects. Further on in the regulations, under general performance standards, in V zones in specific, any activity shall not have an adverse effect by increasing the elevation or velocity of floodwaters due to a change in direction of those floodwaters. I would say in this case that we believe that what we're proposing is an improvement because the current existing structure can have the effect of changing the direction of the floodwaters by virtue of having the vertical walls that are not breakaway panels. So any wave activity on this site during a high energy storm would have the effect of waves trying to break on the structure and either damage the structure or deflect. So that situation will be improved upon with the new structure. We're also required to take into account sea level rise, which we are by elevating the structure so that it's 2 feet from the lowest beam, 2 feet above the base flood elevation of 13.
Can I just bring something up with that? Have you looked at this site for the new flood maps?
We have taken a look at it, yes.
So you're still going to be 2 feet above the new?
We would not be 2 feet above the new, no. But we're aware of it, we're very much aware of it, but we're not in a position where we have to meet that standard today.
Okay, are the people who are buying the house
The peop-
aware of
the peop- the people that
the
own
insurance
the-
issues?
The people that own the house are very much aware of the insurance issues.
Okay.
So instead of, even though, I mean,
I mean, wouldn't this be
today
the time to kind of
versus
get ahead?
June 16th, you're talking about a month, and you won't make it compliant with the new regs?
Well, it could, no, it could
Is it the
be,
height from a zoning standpoint?
it could be-
Getting it? That's it, the height from a
No,
Well,
zoning.
there's two things.
Jen, it could be compliant with our regs, and it could be compliant with the flood zone, but it's not gonna be 2 feet above the new
No,
flood zone.
I understand that. It just
Well, there's
seems
a
like you're
couple
going
things at
through all
play
this,
here.
why not just make it compliant with the new ones?
We
Unless
certainly-
you're up against something else, which is most likely zoning and your height restriction.
Well, there's a couple things.
Yeah.
Aesthetics, we don't want the building that tall, and,
Well, what's the new one gonna be?
well, can I answer this
Oh,
question
okay.
first?
I'm just curious.
Well, I can tell you
Well,
that new,
you can choose to do what you want, but I would think very carefully about that from future financial.
a lot of thought has been put into that, believe me. We've been, all my clients are advised about the new flood elevations, and there are some times where it's not appropriate and the conditions are such that people make a decision not to look to the future. But in,
This is a big investment.
well, what we're looking at today, and until the maps are changed, which we're very much assuming will happen in July, this meets building code, FEMA standards, and I believe it meets your standards, but I'm sure you'll tell me if it doesn't.
Yeah. No, I'm just,
Sure,
all right.
fully aware. And the regulation, again, reiterates, at a minimum, in V zones, a 2-foot elevation shall be, per 100 years, shall be incorporated into the design. Finally, as far as regulations and reviewing them, just to remind you of what they say, there's a very specific performance standard that says a proposed project within a velocity zone shall not destroy or otherwise impair the function of any portion of said landform, and shall not have an adverse effect on adjacent wetland resources. And the reason I'm putting emphasis on that is this is sort of a unique situation as far as my experience goes when proposing work in velocity zones. It's certainly more typical when you're doing work in a velocity zone to also have other wetland resources. Usually you have a coastal bank, coastal dune, coastal beach, all in close proximity. In this case, and it still baffles me why, but this particular area was designated as a velocity zone by FEMA, and it will continue to be, although ironically, the boundary line moves closer to the harbor than it is here. Less of the lot is in a velocity zone in the future.
But it's open, it's right open to that south coast, and it's very low.
Right. So, it is in a velocity zone. But there are no other wetland resources that could be affected that are any closer than 140 feet. And they're on the other side of Clinton Avenue, in Scranton Avenue, and then structures and real estate between Clinton Avenue and the water. So there certainly would be no adverse effects on adjacent wetland resources because there are no adjacent wetland resources in this case. So we truly believe that the construction proposed here, while in a velocity zone, has been designed in a way that meets your performance standards. By virtue of there being an existing structure that's at very high risk of damage in the type of storm that is predicted that we have to design for new construction, the new building is certainly a vast improvement over those situations where there'd be a potential for damage. Now, we are proposing the breakaway panels. We prefer to have breakaway panels for a couple of reasons. Probably the most important is aesthetics and respect for the neighbors in the aesthetics and just for overall aesthetics for the applicant as well. My experience with you folks has been that you've been able to approve projects with breakaway panels if it's for a structure that will replace a non-compliant FEMA structure. Certainly would never propose or expect, probably wouldn't even propose a project for a new building on a vacant lot in a velocity zone, but I certainly wouldn't propose breakaway panels. But in this case, given the fact that the existing structure has that situation, and it's surrounded by other non-compliant structures that would, in effect, be the flotsam and jetsam that you are most concerned with breakaway panels, I think it's reasonable and appropriate in this case that you consider this project with breakaway panels. And I'm sure you have lots of questions for me, and I'm going to give you all the information you need in whatever needs to be in writing, but Teresa would like to make a presentation as well. And the Huffins are here, and you can all answer questions after that.
So that was a good presentation. It would have been nice to have read it in the narrative
That would've been
first.
Awesome.
Then we would have
Can I
had
just
it.
get the minutes?
Always good to have it. No, it's always good to have it reinforced. You want the first part of the minutes?
No.
We'll put those in red and bold for you. Little more work in the narratives.
We know you're capable of this, Mike.
You do?
Yes.
Compared it to Onawa, she said
Yes.
Onawa was good.
Yeah.
Anawa was
Same
good.
property owners,
Knew
correct?
exactly what
Onawa?
it was looking
Yeah.
at. It
Yeah.
was awesome.
Yeah.
Onawa, I was good there.
Hi, good evening,
Hello,
everybody.
Teresa.
Teresa Sprague with Blue Flax Design. I thought first I'd start with a couple of photographs of the site and then go into the landscape plan. The existing conditions, I know you've all been out there. We just talked, or Mike discussed a little bit about the berm. There's a photograph here, and I know it's small, I'll be happy to pass it around. The berm is about maybe 3 feet high. There's also retaining walls on either side of the house. They're completely covered by the juniper. So there is, that's really the only major change in elevation. It's a relatively flat lot heading out. This is looking out towards Clinton Ave. This is just an image of the border privet that's surrounding, and then this is the house that, as you enter off of Swing Lane, so the existing conditions there. So the basic...
You'll give Jen copies of all this, right?
Yes, I'll give copies of all those photographs, yep. So the basic landscape plan and the basic goals of this landscape plan, there's no mitigation required here, and there's really no mitigation you can do in a velocity zone or in a land subject to coastal storm flowage. But what we are trying to do is improve the aesthetics of the site.
There's plenty you can do.
Well, there's plenty we can do, but as
And
far
this
as
is what you're
mitigating
going
for
to do.
wave action,
Right.
exactly. So what we're basically proposing to do is improve the site from a biodiversity standpoint and also from an aesthetic standpoint. So from the biodiversity standpoint, what we're proposing to do is remove the border privet hedges that are existing on this site. Unfortunately, there continues to be a border privet hedge just to the south here that we cannot remove because it's not on this particular property. But we're proposing to remove the existing border privet hedge along the edge of Clinton Ave and significantly increase the amount of vegetation along Clinton Ave to provide screening and help improve biodiversity. So we'll replace the border privet hedge with a viburnum dentatum hedge. And in addition to that, we'll be adding eastern red cedars to provide some additional screening down here to the south. We're adding a significant number of trees. This lot is flat, and obviously the scale of the new house is a concern. So we'll be adding vegetation to help soften that scale and help bring some vertical layers into this. So we're proposing to add 4 eastern red cedar, 1 tupelo tree, and a couple of Amelanchier canadensis. And we're proposing in this area to add 10 trees total, 8 of which are native. We are also proposing to use a Japanese maple that's actually coming from the Onawa property over here, and that will be up against the house, and then also a hydrangea. paniculata. In addition to that, we're proposing to add 65 shrubs, all of which are native, including in the back area here. And I want to speak to the note about the septic in just a minute. And as well as 669 native grasses, 662 native grasses. There are some more Carly Rose and some Carl Forrester that will be going in around the foundation planting. But in general, we'll be adding switchgrass, Sargassum nutans, Indian grass, some Deschampsia, and a few other native grass species. Again, the goal of the landscape plan is to help create those vertical layers so that from the surrounding neighborhood, the house doesn't appear to be just looming out of this relatively flat lot. So by adding this vegetation, we're proposing to bring it down to that level. We're on the terraced area around the pool, that will be pervious. It will be grass with some stepping stone pavers around the pool area, but this area would all be fescue lawn. The rest of the area, once the construction is completed, would be seeded with a fescue lawn, managed organically. The area over the new septic, we're proposing to do meadow grasses with just a mown edge to provide a sense of intention, so it doesn't appear that that's just part of their lot that they forgot to manage. As far as the note on the septic, I'd just like to apologize for the lack of precision in the language. What we should have written is that the septic tank itself is located outside of the FEMA velocity zone, and the majority of the leaching field is located entirely outside of both FEMA and the Falmouth Wetlands Regulations V zone. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions about the landscape plan that you have.
Okay, thanks. Jen?
Where to begin? Okay. Mike. Quoting our regulations, you said it's not a new structure? Is it a substantial improvement to an existing structure?
I guess it would certainly,
So,
well, let me say it another
following
way.
activities proposed within a velocity zone of land subject to coastal storm flow shall be presumed to have a significant impact. Construction of new structure and substantial improvements to an existing structure. Which one is this?
This is a complete rebuild of an existing
So it's a new structure.
non-standard. So it's a new structure.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to, you opened that door, I didn't.
Well,
You
I need you to understand
You
why
opened that
there's a way to look at this. Substantial improvement assumes you've got a
Right.
non-compliant structure that you're just gonna fix it up.
We know what the facts are.
We know, it's a new structure.
Well, you're saying it in a way that's,
But you,
Making
like I
me a
said, you
little-
opened that door. I just followed you right through it, Mike. That's all.
it's in the regs.
And this is gonna go to you and Teresa. I really think you are gonna need to provide the board the cut and fill counts.
I already have a
I
note.
think in order to make an argument for the breakaway panels, which you know staff is always going to recommend the board not to approve breakaway panels, I'm very consistent with that ruling. During our brief discussion the other day, you mentioned that they had allowed it in a previous filing out in, what's that, Eric, Belmar? But that was almost in the exact, that house, I remember it was one of those like split level ranches. That was almost in the exact same footprint. So to make that argument, I definitely think you need to give me the square footage of the old house, the square footage of the new house, including the decks, Mike, because if you look at the architecturals, the decks do have those breakaway panels underneath them. So I think that is gonna have to be presented. And you're not doing the breakaway panels in that crushed stone area between the garage and the house, correct?
Correct.
All right, so, I do have an issue with the grading. Teresa, you and I discussed the terrace when we met. I was not thrilled with the terrace back then, I'm not thrilled with it now. Mike, you said the grading on the property is the 6-foot contour. if you look at your existing conditions plan, that 6-foot contour wraps around the house underneath the deck, and I've got no spot grades in all right here. So you go from 6 feet to 4 feet, I got a spot grade of 5.2 at the edge of the deck. So I do have concerns with going from where we have that spot grade of 4.3 next to where it says the 6 on your new contour line, to an 8-foot terrace. So I'd like to see some spot grades in that front yard. Okay, because I really do want to get a better handle on how that grading is, because I do have concerns. It just looks like we're going from, you know, between 4 and 6 to 8, so depending on where that break is. I mean, you're proposing to change that 6-foot contour, so I want to see how much fill is going in the front. And then we're bringing up the terrace grade another 2 feet, so in my little plant mind, that's a big difference.
Well, we have,
And I know we
can give you the
discussed it
information.
when we met, that I was not, that I was really concerned with that terrace. So I definitely need more information on the front of that yard. Other than that, I think the board can handle the rest of this. Teresa, I do have a question. I want more information on the terrace. Okay, on that stepping stone, that paver, if I look at your plan, you have all the little cross sections. Is that cross section the actual little pavers?
I'll give you provide some photographs.
Yeah, are we gonna do, you know, is it gonna be one of those tight pavery things you see, like, and the only thing I can think of is some of the driveways I've seen out on East Chop? Or
Right.
is it gonna be actual stepping stones and predominantly grass?
Actual stepping stones.
Okay,
around.
so if you could just give us a little bit more information on that, that will be helpful. And I just have one question for Tom or Courtney or anyone that can answer this. Tom, if you look at 2A on the Knoxville construction plans, are those windows near the breakaway panels? And are those allowed in that type of situation or not?
They may actually be considered part of a breakaway system.
Okay, I just didn't know. I usually see those walls, so I don't think I've seen windows, or maybe, I think I've asked this question before, and I just wanted to bring it up again.
You're referencing next to the double door, and that,
Yeah,
not,
my little circle.
yep,
Yeah.
yes, yep.
Okay, all right, I was just curious. And again, just from a staff point of view, to be consistent, I don't believe the board's regs do allow for the breakaway panels. And that's it for right now. Other than that, the landscape plan is fine. You and Teresa and I had discussed your general concept when we talked about the terrace, so it's not a big surprise there. So Mike, square footage difference, including those decks, the overhangs, probably not necessary unless it's gonna come all the way out, which I doubt. So I want the square foot difference between the house and the new house, and then the impervious surface, including that terracey thing between the two, just so we have all the information, and that's it.
Tom,
Oh,
I have that question too.
we're great minds think alike.
I have that question too.
Well, stop cheating.
It's already written.
Oh, well, I wrote mine first.
I didn't cheat.
People,
Where was your pool equipment?
We have two options for that. The preferred option is to put it in a vault below the ground in a location that would probably be somewhere under the terrace. We haven't designed that yet with a hatch. The other option is a little trickier because it would have to probably be, we have to check with the building department. Maybe Mr. Robbins knows this, I don't know this answer about pool equipment and the need to meet FEMA standards for elevation because it's equipment, but I don't know that answer off the top of my head.
Me neither.
I'll have
So
to
you're
get
talking
back to
about the pumps and everything?
Yeah,
Yeah, this-
Okay.
and whether they have to be elevated or not. I am not sure.
Yeah,
Well, it's good to get that question, because I'm sure it's gonna come up again.
yeah, we're gonna, I'm gonna jump back. You said, you told us where groundwater is, what was it?
The elevation of the groundwater,
Should be on the-
on sheet 3, the highest groundwater that we use for design purposes through the Board of Health
Right.
and monitoring wells in the neighborhood in general is elevation 1.7.
Next, going back, I would like to see some structural footing plans. We had a similar project over in New Silver, and it was nice to have a cross-section. There is one on part of this, but I really would like to see that. You're talking about that. The other one was very detailed. It gave a lot of information as far as,
How it would be constructed.
yeah, the methodology of it. And I don't know if it has to be that detailed, because that one was in a different location than this is. But this is something that gives it a better cross-section, so I can understand. My next little segue into that is the storm panels and what they look like and how they function. What type are they? I can't even begin to wave a flag in favor of it without even knowing what they are and how they're constructed and what the performance of them would be. I'm interested in it. I am not, unlike some others, I am not opposed to storm panels. I believe that they do perform a good function. Aesthetically, in this area, we're making it compliant coming up, maybe not as compliant as it could be, but it's coming up, and that's not a bad thing. So that would be that. And my own personal, and it's not a big deal, but a pool. Awesome. You know, I'm not a big swimmer, but good luck with that. You know, you're doing a whole lot. The terrace, pervious terrace, and fortunately, thank you for explaining that, the pieces with the grass in between, a little more palatable than other things that have been put out there.
The pool's not permeable.
Right.
It's impermeable.
Right.
We know that.
And I'd be interested to see how you accomplish the pool equipment. That's a little bit of a hurdle. You know, for something that size, you're gonna have a substantial amount of piping, and it takes up a lot of space. You know, and you gotta have it maintainable. That's the one thing that you know, I've run into maintenance issues in some recent things myself. So it's just something I'd be really interested in seeing how you address that. And that's enough for now, somebody else will take it.
Okay, Court?
The storm panels, or let's say how high is this thing off the ground? I guess that's my basic question. Off the grade? I mean, I'm looking at like
8.2 on the slide.
maybe
7.2.
7 feet?
Let me give you some information that'll help. The top of the main floor, or the ground level.
Yeah,
of
if
the
I had more time to study this, I wouldn't be asking that question.
I
Thank you,
understand,
Mike.
Mr. Byrd. The elevation of that will be 8.5, and then the next highest floor is proposed to be 17.25. So there's about a 9-foot from ground level to first habitable space level, about 9 feet.
And your storm panels, or the area where they occupy, that looks to be 7 feet, give or take?
The height of the panel itself?
I guess,
Yes.
from what I can see here, again, I haven't had a chance to familiarize
Can you,
myself with it. So if I'm asking stupid questions, it's because I didn't have enough information. But anyway, go ahead.
I don't know the
One
exact
explanation.
panel height, I can give you that information. In fact, Mr. Huffman can probably answer a lot of these questions about the storm panels and construction better than I can.
Yeah.
I'm gonna turn it over to
Well,
him to answer.
We don't actually need all the detail tonight. We can have it in writing, and then we'll ask you the next time you come if we
Right.
have more questions. We don't need,
Just an observation about these storm panels. Our regulations are frown on them. And I know that your concerns are aesthetics, but you have a landscape architect who I'm sure could do foundation plantings that met our native requirements, that would mask a lot of that, and it would be a lovely thing, and that would take care of the storm panel issue.
just a suggestion, he's just throwing out
Yeah,
there.
I mean, I'm just looking at this, and I agree with Tom, going back to the construction drawings. We need cross-sections so that we can understand what the impact of the site work is. Because, and that was the main reason we required all of that information in the other project you referenced. We need, you have to, in approving a thing, we have to understand what is the impact of it, not only long-term, but in the construction end of it. So those are my things that I have right now. Oh, yes, on your drawing, which you did provide, I'm looking at the second page plot plan, the proposed whatever, and I'm looking within the inside of the bounds of the new house, and I can see the old house outline, and I'm looking at what looks like a septic tank. Is that a before or after?
That's a before, Courtney. That's being removed, and then the new septic is going behind the house towards,
No, I know the new septic. I didn't know whether this thing was,
That's
I
being
mean,
removed.
was that,
That's
is that a
existing
septic
septic.
thing? That's not the pool equipment
no,
thing?
No,
that's
it's,
existing
it's,
septic.
he mentioned it.
Yeah.
It's being removed,
Yeah, that's part of the old septic to be removed.
right.
Are you, do you, plan to have AC in this house, central air conditioning? And where are you gonna put all your
He's
compressors?
writing it down.
Where are you gonna have that located? Are they gonna be within the footprint of the house, or are you
Well,
gonna?
wouldn't they have to be up?
They have to be
They have-
elevated.
they have to be
Yeah, well,
elevated.
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
So would it not be logical that all the pool equipment, the pumps, the electronics, and
We'll just
everything
find
else would
out.
have to be
He'll-
elevated?
He'll go
Good-
talk to
good idea.
Eladio.
We'll talk about that, but that's a good idea.
It's not
No
involved in
other
the house
questions?
itself.
Yeah. This 2-foot landscape wall?
Yes, it's 2-foot maximum height. It's proposed to
And,
be a typical.
That's within the velocity zone? And in your opinion, does that represent an obstacle in the case of a velocity event?
It is a vertical face of only 2 feet in height, and it is in a velocity zone, but in our opinion, it's because of its de minimis height, that any impacts on, that it may cause by virtue of being there during a storm event are really negligible.
What is that, what's the dynamic of wave action on something like that?
I'm not sure what you mean by dynamic of wave action.
Does it make the waves bigger, and what happens?
In the storm event we're talking about, the wave would be higher than the wall, and it would just ride up over it, and if it's going to be impact anything, it would impact the building. So, the peak or the high point of the wave would much higher than the 2-foot wall. It would be at elevation 13 when the wall's at elevation 8. So there'd really be a de minimis impact from the wave. It would be at the bottom of the wave.
And Jen, I have a question for you. We permitted pools in velocity zones?
Courtney, I can't even talk about the pool, 'cause I honestly, I'm kind of confused about what's going on with the front yard and how much grading we're doing and all of that, so I still just can't get a handle on how, you know, what that, I know Mike keeps saying it's only 2 feet, but that's 2 feet on top of the proposed 6-foot contour, which is, and I see the existing 6-foot contour, but you're moving at least, in some cases, you know, if I measured like straight down, 50 feet from that, so that whole area is gonna be filled, I'm assuming.
Well, you're asking for, and I think you have this, for spot grades.
Yeah,
So
so Courtney, I
what we
can't
need to
even answer
do,
that question.
Courtney, what we need to do is have the current spot grades on this proposed.
I know when I
plan.
met with Teresa and Mike a few months ago, the terrace was a big concern to the staff, and that was,
Yeah, and we can't,
Made known.
let's not keep
no, I
beating
know.
this,
What we're
we
gonna
need
do
the
is-
information.
We're gonna provide you additional spot grades from what we did, and we're gonna provide you a cross-section through the pool terrace, so you
Right.
can see and we're gonna provide you with the volume of fill.
Okay,
Right,
I have that in my notes.
thank you.
While we're on that topic, Mike.
Mike, how would you like to ask questions next?
No, I'm just following up on where you got. You can get to me later. It's not only that peak wave, it's that in-between time. We don't want to divert flow onto the existing house to the east. Because that little low wall, you're coming in.
Yeah, you don't
pick
know
up
what the
house,
waves are
and
gonna be.
I'm not
You,
saying
all we're
that's
given
the-
is what the 100-year,
It
you
could
know,
be the
could
lowest.
happen, the 100-year storm, but anywhere,
In between.
yeah, oh, and then
All right,
that
so-
might be bigger, it might be a 500-year storm that hits us.
Well, my point is, if you come up with some, convince the board that that wall isn't gonna create a problem, not only during a thunderstorm, but we're not gonna divert flow onto your neighbor property to the east. It just looks like you could knock up some velocities and make his condition worse and significantly less than the 500-year event.
Understood.
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, if there's a big wave, it's gonna roll right over
Oh, sure,
that.
I get that.
But if it's a bob, or a little bit bigger than bob,
I get it.
what effect is that gonna have on the neighbors?
I get it.
Mike, keep going, what?
Okay. I didn't pick it up somewhere. How many bedrooms in the proposed as opposed to the existing?
Existing 4, proposed 4.
That's good. You've moved I assume that the effluent from that system, no matter what we do, is gonna continue to go to Falmouth Tower. I mean, we're moving it to the north, but I don't think it's gonna change anything.
It's not gonna change anything.
Yeah, they're gonna change.
The hydrology
So
is the hydrology.
the question is, and you're not increasing the loading, but the town is spending an awful lot of money on nitrates. We're putting it into a zone where people do use shellfish, whether it's appropriate or not, so think about that one.
Well, can I just?
Well, it is, I mean, that is an active shellfish
Right,
area.
Can I just follow up on that?
and maybe the shellfish are good.
The improvement it's a substantial improvement over what exists.
Yes,
Because
it is.
the existing leaching pit is close to, if not in the water table. The new leaching field is elevated 5 feet from the groundwater table to the bottom, which is the requirement, and there's a presumption that providing that vertical separation.
Gotta be better than what you got.
Well, not only better, it meets standards it's assumed it does the proper filtration necessary to treat the wastewater. That's both Title V and local Board of Health.
Well, I'm still chugging along here. Taking your scale from your profile, I think you get your bottom of the foundation about elevation 2, is that correct?
Yeah, so we don't anticipate any dewatering, if that's your question.
That's where I'm coming from. Okay, but you're playing with 3 inches, is that what?
Well, you have to realize that highest groundwater elevation 1.7. In all my experience doing test holes, I've never encountered it. It's always about elevation 1. So that extra 0.7
Okay.
is an extraordinary high groundwater condition.
In that narrative, which I know you're writing,
We're looking
if
forward
you
to
could
it.
say some provisions for if, groundwater, if dewatering is required, just put those words in somewhere. I know that it appears that shed is going away from what's there.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
shed's
a good
going
thing, I like that. We talked about the stone wall, and I'm gonna defer to other people on the board. We're talking about putting trees in the velocity zone, which, I guess under some people are trees and other people might be structures. I mean,
We want
trees that are gonna go
trees.
away, are these things good
We
things?
want trees. Trees used to be there. Trees perform an important function in terms of removing nitrogen, removing excess water.
Betsy, I like trees. If they're good,
I knew-
I'm all for it.
In fact,
I'm just saying that if we put these big posts out there and we'd be
Trees are
worried
not
about
structures.
these posts going away in the hurricane, and here we're
Trees
putting
are-
trees which go away in
Trees
hurricanes,
are
and I'm
not-
just trying to be consistent.
Trees are not structures. They'll help retain the soil,
That's,
which could be swept away from around these piles,
they provide coastal
Follow that train of
resiliency.
thought, Michael.
provide coastal resiliency,
I'm-
provide nesting spots for birds.
I'm just a civil engineer. You're saying something that's gonna get blown away in the storm. If they're good, I'm all for it.
They're
Just don't
good.
make more out of it than that.
They're good.
They're good.
And
They're
we'll
good.
move on to
I-
Mario.
I've been had.
Mario.
I believe. And that's it for me.
Yeah, it's Mario's turn.
Well, I'm not a marine structural engineer, so I'm going to defer to my fellow commissioners. All I know is that with a predicted sea level rise of 3 to 4 feet by the end of the century, trees are going to be irrelevant because this lot is going to be under seawater by the year 2100, if those predictions are correct. So, the enormity of this project in a velocity zone troubles me. That's all I have to say.
Russ,
Mike, the proposed house slab at grade, is that intended for storage, I assume?
They would like to use the lower level grade for some typical storage that you might have, for ancillary stuff you have in a house, yes.
Okay, so
that's my biggest concern.
I,
The whole idea is to have open pilings so that if there's a storm, water can flow through.
Well, if you have a concern, then I think that you could condition it appropriately about that.
Really, what are we gonna do, Mike? Do spot checks on someone's house? We can't do that, you know that. It's an unenforceable condition,
What
don't
would you
even go
like
there.
me to do, say there'll be
Don't
no
go there.
storage? I mean, I'm trying to
It's
just
an
do.
unenforceable condition, I'm not
Well, let me
playing
say
that
this,
game.
there's space under there, so there's a potential to put things there. I don't know what the Huffman's plans are for that lower level, for lawnmowers and beach chairs and beach balls and toys for their kids.
Yeah.
And that's
Well, let's
exactly
go
what
on.
Betsy and I
We-
are concerned about.
I personally don't have a problem with the panels. But one of the trade-offs on Moses Road, I believe, they ended up putting crushed stone in area, except for the spot that,
Where the
the
car was
garage
parked.
was
They had a
going.
car.
You know what I mean?
Oh, now I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I understand there's a trade-off, they're losing the shed, and that's great, so that's not gonna be flying around, but maybe cut down on that a little bit. Because all your mechanical is gonna be upstairs in the structure.
So you're saying, Russ, do a slab under part of the proposed house and not just the
Correct,
crushed
not the
stone
whole
on
thing.
the open area?
Right. And I might cut down on some of the things, like I said, I think that's what we ended up doing out in North Falmouth.
Yes.
Probably
Yeah,
not
it's all-
going on.
just-
Yeah,
where the
crushed stone
carport was.
except for
Yep.
where the car
Yeah.
is.
Everything else is stone.
Anything else?
Nope, I can't wait for your narrative, so I'm looking forward to it.
All of a sudden, I gotta write out
It's like the newest book coming out, Mike, I can't wait, man.
Okay, I have a couple of questions, Mike.
I don't think it's funny.
Dry wells,
Yes.
did you calculate out? I mean, I only see one dry well.
That's for the driveway.
Well, where are the dry wells for the house?
What's
No gutters.
proposed for the house is a non-gutter system. So there would be and it doesn't show on the plan, but there's going to be, the concept is to show a crushed stone trench drip line along the edges of the roof.
But you're gonna show it on the new plan that you give us, right?
Why wasn't that on the
It's
plan?
cutting into
Why
that
wasn't that in there?
terrace.
Because the
Narrative.
roof system hadn't been designed at the time the site plan was completed, so
You had the overhang,
we
right?
can provide that.
Hey, guys, the floor is mine and Mike's right now. Mike, would you provide that, please?
Yes,
The pool fence is on Teresa's plan, but it's not on your plan.
what,
Pool fence,
okay.
that should be on your plan. I don't see it.
I didn't either. It's on
We
Teresa's.
It's on, no, that's a different hatch. That hatch is for
That's
something
the edge
else.
of the terrace.
And do you need a dry well for the pool? How are you gonna empty the pool?
It's proposed to be a saltwater pool, so.
Saltwater pool? Okay,
There's no
would you
plans.
provide that information in the narrative? And one of our favorites that I can't believe nobody else brought up, is there gonna be an outdoor shower? And if so, where is it gonna be? You're not planning for one. Well, if you
Use it
do want one, be sure and come in and clear it with conservation.
Call it a rinse
Yeah,
station.
exactly. It's
Rinse
outside
station.
Rinse station.
It's a rinse
Otherwise it
station.
Applies a drain.
And the last thing I have is, when are we gonna have a continuance?
2 weeks if we could, please.
It'll be the last thing we could fit in then, right?
I don't know, that's 21st.
We already have 3, right?
Yeah, 3 NOIs.
9 RDAs. 3 NOIs and a presentation. It's up to you guys. This was well over an hour, and really up to you guys. But you have 9 RDAs, 1 presentation by Oyster Pond.
Well, if Mike can write a very clear and succinct, but complete narrative,
You need to look that way.
If I may, Madam Chair, Mike, is 3 weeks asking too much? To be honest with you,
It wouldn't be 3 weeks, because you're not meeting on Memorial Day.
I'm sorry.
It would be the June 4th.
We would really like the 2-week continuance if possible. And I can
The only
provide-
reason I'm asking is because you're going to be submitting plans, and we're going to be digesting material.
We need a week before at least.
And
Oh, yeah.
I'm trying to be diplomatic about it. I think that, and I'm not, I really appreciate timelines and permitting and all those factors, but we're gonna be absorbing a lot of new information, and I think it would behoove you to not get piled in on a night where there's a lot of other things, and that this deserves the time that it would be afforded if it waited till another
what is
night.
it, June
What date?
2nd?
What are our options on dates? 2 weeks from now would be the 21st, which you prefer or not. What's the next option?
June 4th,
June
because
4th.
they're not meeting the 28th because of Memorial Day.
And I'm
That week,
talking-
that week's always off on this board.
2 minutes to talk about that with my client? Timing's sort of important, so.
And I appreciate that, and I'm not trying to be a stick in the mud, but I also
want to give due
all the
diligence
more
to.
reason, Mike, why you should have submitted a complete thing, and then we'd be able to close it tonight.
If you,
Wouldn't that have been
do you
nice?
want to have a moment with your client?
You can,
All on you, Mike.
Do you folks want to talk about that, or you want to?
We can table it.
Go on,
We can
Denise.
move right on to 92 as well.
Sure. 2 minutes?
okay.
Did we
Did
just
Ray
table
go?
it?
Did
We're
Ray,
gonna
you
take, we're gonna take, move, you need
Maybe
a
make a
motion?
motion, don't we?
want to make a motion to table?
Make a motion to table.
Second.
Second it? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. We can't move on to the next one because we need Mike.
So we'll just, get our,
Oh, well,
So,
good try.
I tried, yeah, I thought
You
that
tried, I
would do it.
appreciate that.
Your heart was in the right place, Mike.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did the right thing.
Will we have it on the 21st?
Well, I have to say,
yes,
I have never seen
yes.
so little.
We have enough time on the 21st.
It'll be a late night.
Yeah. If you guys,
What's on the agenda after this?
I'm sorry?
Is there anything after the agenda after this?
Yeah, I think so.
Nothing to talk about?
the IDAs will go quick.
Yeah, I don't mind the nice RDAs. They go quick. They just run through. I don't mind having them.
Little plants, you know.
But this is okay.
Yep. Right. And I can appreciate that, but I also, if,
This one's on the 11th. 11th, right? Yeah,
John, yep.
and the other one, that's for the dock here, is on the 4th. That's gonna be-
Okay.
Are we gonna ever get to examining floodplain regulations?
Not in our tenure. There's too much stuff coming up.
Exactly.
But one of the big things is that's what Mario brought up.
Yeah.
This is a floodplain. There's a lot of structure here. Basically, they're-
65% by 2040.
Basically, they're making 4 times as much structure. I mean, even though the structure is there, is gonna go, if sea level comes up another 2-3 feet, even if these things on pilings, if there's a big storm,
Well, what it'll mean is that Clinton Avenue will be at about 2 feet
yeah,
elevation.
right.
For your patience, where?
Wait, we
will-
have to, we have to untable.
Yep. Motion on table.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Do you get that, Susan? Mike?
We're happy to take June 4th.
All right.
We were hesitant only because we're worried about time because, believe it or not, we're very much aware of the flood map change and the ramifications. Everyone is eyes wide open on us possibly not complying. But we're also more concerned about being able to apply for a building permit before the flood zone changes for a whole bunch of reasons that I won't bore you with right now.
And I truly appreciate that, but I also want to give this its due diligence.
Because hopefully we satisfy everything on June 4th, you close it, and then within 21 days, which is June 28th, the FEMA maps are proposed to change, I think, on July 16th. So we would have to rush to get our building permit in. We can't apply without an order of conditions.
Well, okay, Mike, then you better have everything buttoned down and you heard the concerns that some of it, that I have and everything else. If it's the same plan, there's no, you know what I mean?
No, we understand that, and we have June
Okay.
4th, so what that does is it also
Okay.
it has the added benefit of me being able to sit down with Jen, with the narrative, all the information, 2 weeks before the hearing, So she can look at it and say, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, and we can explain why we didn't, or, okay, we'll do that, and then we have one more week still. But we want to do this right, but we also need to be leery of the deadline for building permit applications for the FEMA change.
Mike, do you want me to?
Yeah. You know,
We took an informal polling of the board.
I'd rather do it on the 21st.
Really?
Yeah, because you might come back and we might decide that there has to be another change where you'd have to redo the plan, and then it would be on the 4th. So I would rather, we know what the timing,
I was trying to be courteous to give you more time.
well, and we appreciate that.
And discussion, while you were talking, we were figuring out as well.
Okay.
Jen has a lot of work to do with the RDAs, but unless they're problematic,
Oh, the RDAs don't
It's-
bother me, that's
it's-
all Mark.
right. But, as far as going through 9 RDAs, it's
It's
not,
up to you guys, we can vote on
doesn't
the
take me that
21st.
long to read them.
So
Takes me longer to read them than for us
Than
to
it is
vote them.
Right,
On
understood.
behalf of the applicant, I'd like to make a motion to continue this till May 21st.
Second.
Any further questions? Any further questions?
Do we have a second?
Yes.
Yeah. You're all set with this? I can take the vote? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
All right, so 21st.
Thank you.
Yes. You have, do you have a question? You have to,
Yeah, I just wanted to,
You gotta go to the
you have to
podium
ask
and
the
identify
question in the,
yourself.
I hate talking.
I know. It makes you
Unfortunately-
nervous as soon as you get back there. And have you told us who you are?
Madam Chairman.
I'm Logan Huffman, the proponent at 7 Swing Lane.
Okay.
I guess I'm a little afraid to ask this question, and I don't want to go in detail because I know it's getting late, but I'd ask the board, because I'm thinking big picture. If you go down Shore Road and you make the left turn onto Clinton,
Yeah.
you can see this house, the fireplace from this house. And I'm aware that the board in the past doesn't like the breakaway panels and all. We believe we'll come in with a design that, will satisfy your questions, but I guess what I'd like to understand briefly is what it is about them that the board does not like, so that I can take all that into account when we go back and do our homework, so that we come in with, something that is workable.
Well, I can tell you at this board, some of the board members don't mind the breakaway panels. Other board members, and I'm included in this group, don't like it just for the reason where Mike said, well, we're gonna store stuff. The regulations specifically say you can build in the velocity zone up on open pilings
No sheer panels.
and no sheer panels. And the purpose is, it's obvious what the purpose is, right? If there's a storm, water's just
Right.
gonna go
To
right
come out.
through.
Okay.
And there's, the fact is, we can put in, and we will put in, that there's no storage
Right.
in that area. And certainly the project that we had a few weeks ago, where the only the only cement underneath was where the car was parked, and the rest is just gonna be gravel, is gonna discourage.
Well, that's actually one of the things that we would be amenable to that, and I think that the notation got put on the plan, slab elevation, I think just inadvertently, by the architect, so that's something
Yeah.
we wouldn't have a problem with. I think everybody has too much Rubbermaid stuff anyway in the world.
Yeah,
Less stuff, the better.
well,
Anyway.
I couldn't agree
appreciate
more,
it.
so. But that's what the
Okay.
issue is.
I understand.
Okay, thank you.
Courtney,
Thank you
this
so much.
hearing is closed, we shouldn't even address that, sorry. No, it's not your fault, sir. It's Madam Chairman.
Robert and Elizabeth Rotondi, 92 Edgewater Drive East, for permission to extend the existing ramp and timber pier with a 4-foot by 16-foot pier section, along with the installation of through-flow decking over the salt marsh, handrails, 2 12-inch diameter piles, docking for 2 mooring fields, and the associated excavating and landscaping. Mike. Jen. Sorry, Mike. I heard a little, I heard a little mouse in this
I was a
corner.
mouse. I was left behind. I could say that I have no comments before Mike's presentation, but I actually do. I went back and looked, Mike, and you know that discussion we had right before we had the other discussion about the other project, about that? Did you look and see what I was talking about?
Yeah, well,
And I think it's because you said that ramp was new, so then you shifted that way and it worked. So when I said I was always right, I was not right in that.
He knew when you said,
say-
No,
he
but-
knew when you said you were always right, that you're not
But
always
The
right.
purpose of bringing that to your attention, I just wanted to make sure that that was permitted if it wasn't. Other than that, I don't have any
talk to
comment.
that. Can you say I was wrong?
No, I refuse to. I'll say I don't have any additional comment, Madam Chairman.
I knew what you planned to do in this one.
I'm happy to hear that. I'm relieved. For the record, my name is Michael Borselli. I represent the applicant, Robert Rotundi. You may recall this property, 92 Edgewater Drive East.
You were gonna have a house.
We are going to have a house.
Oh,
We're still going to have a
that's
house.
coming. All right.
But he's not ready, he doesn't want to upset the neighbors this summer and start building, so he's going to wait till the fall.
Oh, okay.
Good move.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to disrupt his own summer either.
There you go.
But we're here tonight for something totally different. We're here tonight in hopes that we're going to get permission to do a small extension to an existing licensed pier at this property. And I'll go to the point that Jen had raised. This pier is licensed. It's license number 4033. And the overall licensed pier length that was granted was 60 feet in length, back when the license was granted. And if you measure the existing structure today, you're going to discover that it's longer than that. It's about 72 feet long. And the reason for that is you folks, during the House Notice of Intent application, granted us permission to add the 12-foot ramp on the landward side to help facilitate the owners to get up on top of a pier, because it had, as it currently had existed at the time, there were 2 or 3 steps, and the riser height was about 14 or 16 inches, so it wasn't really easy to climb up onto. So you granted permission to build towards the house 12 feet. So, of course, when you try to compare the Chapter 91 plan, which Jen did, to this existing pier, it was longer, but that's why. It's not longer in the water. It's the same footprint that was licensed. As far as the project itself, the property owner has 2 boats. One boat is smaller, that's why one of the mooring fields is smaller. And he's owned the house now for a little over a year, and he went through last summer, and the water's a little bit shallower than it should be where the boat ties. So,
Or you could say, dare I say, boys like bigger boats? It could be a smaller boat, and then it wouldn't be a problem.
well, unfortunately, he already owns the boats, and he has no intentions to buy any new boats. But the boat that he has can dock at the dock and have the stern in the appropriate water, but the plow section is in shallower water than it should be if you try to utilize the existing dock as it is. So we're asking permission to add one 16-foot section. And if you remember, we had a similar project like this on Toby Lane where, T-Ticket, where the property owner wanted a new dock and it was straight, and we wanted to discourage tying in other places that weren't appropriate. So we took the cue from that permit and we put the similar language on this plan about railings being in places they should be and not in places only where the boat ties. There's details, it's the same details that you reviewed and approved on the T-ticket path one a couple of weeks ago. So there's a proposal to just install 2 more pilings and then the traditional timber structure just to connect out that additional 16 feet. And in this way, the boat mooring field is entirely in 3 feet of water at low tide. We did a shellfish survey, and it's in your narrative package by Vaccaro, and it demonstrates that there are no significant densities of shellfish anywhere. We don't even have an area where we need to demonstrate that we're 35 feet from it, because the density was below 1 per 9 square feet in in the area that was sampled. The piles are supposed to be driven, not jetted. There's a typical cross-section, and then there's a profile that you're used to seeing. And that sums up the project. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Jen?
Staff has concerns with the 2 mooring fields, that's my only comment.
Okay, Court?
No question.
Is the electric and the water is existing now?
I believe, I don't know that answer.
Okay.
I don't know.
It'd be a seasonal service. If it is not existing.
It's here, I'm gonna.
No, on the existing structure itself. If it is to be added and not just extended, if it needs to be added, I'd like to know where it generates from, in the upland. That's about all I got.
Russ?
You see your clients own this for a year, Mike?
I think at least a year, probably longer.
And he's
But
had 2 boats tied up to it as well.
yeah, he has a smaller whaler and then he has.
I saw both of them, the whale's great, big one, beauty. I have no further questions.
Mario?
The harbor master didn't have a problem with the width of the waterway at this point?
No, we submitted as we're required and he signed off.
He had no problem with it?
He had no problem.
You're going to have to revise the existing Chapter 91 license?
If we get approval from you folks, the next step is selectmen, and then we go for Chapter 91.
Mike?
The cross-section you show at the end, you show 2 feet of water at low water, and the plan shows at the end of the dock, you go down to the end of the dock where the existing dock.
Here?
Yeah, the existing, you show, the plan in profile shows 2 feet, and the plan shows 3.6, and the profile shows 2.
Are you saying you scaled here and it scales 2?
2, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
I'm getting at, we're adding 16 feet, and I don't know what we're getting. If I look at in full plan, we go from 3, I'm not sure what the,
It's not the end of the dock that's gonna make a difference, it's the fact that the boat, the bow of the boat is gonna be further out.
okay.
If you move that whole boat in, it would be at, well, he doesn't have a sounding, but it would be
Well,
like
I'm
1
just looking
foot.
at the existing, I'm looking at the data that's shown.
I understand what Commissioner Powers is saying. If you look at the plan view, there's very specific spot elevations that
Yeah.
evidently didn't translate to this profile, so I can adjust this profile
Well,
if you'd like me to.
I'm just,
It's that.
Yes.
In terms of the environment, Doc really does any great good
Maybe
in
that's
terms of
big
the environment.
goal is.
I understand why people do it, I'm all for it. But there has to, in my mind, there has to be a good reason. And when I look at this, if the idea is we're moving out, and while we're at this, if you got two existing piles to the south that are sitting out there?
Yeah.
in
Yep.
Space,
Yes.
they're gonna stay in the same position?
Yes.
And the applicant is happy enough with that pile not being, if we're gonna drive two new piles, if we took one out and added one,
You mean like move one?
yeah. I mean, it'd make him happier. If we're going to do this, I mean, we're not making any clams happy, but,
Well, I think we're making clams happier because we're getting in deeper water.
well, there you go.
Because,
Well, the plan doesn't really say that.
Well, let
I know
me-
the bow does, I guess, huh?
the bow,
The bow
right,
does.
because
All
if
right.
you look where the boat ties, the bow is in 2.5 to 2 feet of water on the bow end. The stern is in 3.6, 3.2, 3.0. So adding the extension, this is by his experience, he thought it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, all right.
As far as the tie-off pilings, there was nothing requested of me for shifting the tie-off pilings. I suppose what I'd like to do is if you're ready to close it, I'd rather close it. And if he has any ideas of shifting pilings, I would come back for an amendment for that, because there was no desire on his part to shift the pilings. I can see your point, though, but
Seems like they're.
Well, if he's happy with they are now,
I'd
he
rather-
probably won't be happy when he's finished. is my-
well, I mean, the plan doesn't show them being shifted, so I can't ask you to
Okay.
approve that.
No,
I could do two things. I could continue it and come back, but I would have thought he would have been emphatic, or maybe he didn't think that far ahead. And I don't want to ask for continuance to May 21st, that's for sure.
Although presumably it wouldn't be.
Well, I
That
still,
long
if
a
you start adding
continuance.
all, I guess there's no more, but I don't think it's going to be a deal breaker for me to continue this, so I can get that answer. Then I don't, then I
It's for your client.
because the
Because,
bottom line is, he can't do this until he gets a Chapter 91 license. He's not going to get a Chapter 91 license until next season anyway, so,
Well, let's continue it to
yes,
June 4th then.
yes.
On behalf of the applicant, I move to continue this to June 4th.
Second.
Yeah, I mean, that just makes a lot more sense, as long as you're doing it.
Right.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for continuance to June 2nd. All in favor, say aye. June 4th, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Then it can be a lot cleaner.
Appreciate the suggestion.
Well,
I don't know, Madam Chairman, can we continue the town for 1 week, please?
Town of Falmouth Harbor Master Care Greg Frazier, Minot Road, for permission to extend Little Pond Channel by 50 feet to the north with improvement dredging of 37 cubic yards of sand to be used as beach nourishment at Bristol Beach.
Motion to continue
1 week,
for 1 week.
That'll be to
14.
14.
Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue till May 14th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Russ, can you put these aerials in swing?
Continued request for hearings under a notice of intent. That's William and Karen Monroe, 26 and Lot 179 Ferry Road, East Falmouth, is continued to June 11th. Who would like to make a motion to adjourn? Besides Susan. Susan wants to do it, but she can't legally do it.
You know, that's good.
So moved.
I second that.
Oh, all right. A motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Hey, guys, I'm gonna send tomorrow, a letter, an email to you regarding your summer schedule, okay?